Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa has said she will support Pete Hegseth's nomination to be Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense. Ernst, a combat veteran and survivor of sexual assault, was seen as one of the most likely Republicans to defect against Hegseth, who has previously expressed opposition to women serving in combat roles and has been accused of sexual assault, an allegation he denies. At the hearing yesterday, Hegseth confirmed to Ernst that he does support women now serving in active combat, saying, quote, "It would be the privilege of a lifetime, if confirmed, to be the Secretary of Defense for all men and women in uniform who fight so heroically." Joining us now, MSNBC political analyst Brendan Buck. He was communications strategist and former aide to House Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner. And also with us, Jonathan Cott. He's a former senior advisor to Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Chris Coons. So two Hill veterans here. I'll start with you, Brendan. Do you think that Hegseth is going to be confirmed?
I do. Joni Ernst coming out last night and announcing her support for him, I think, was really the whole ball game. And I think a lot of senators on that panel yesterday understood that where she comes down is ultimately going to decide his fate. She had questions going into this about his role, his view on the role of women in military, and Democrats hammered that question over and over again. Yeah. Problem for them is he just readily conceded he's changed his view on that, and so it made it really hard to stick. And after a while, that sort of line of questioning ran out of steam, and you could tell when she was not really going after him, she didn't want that glare, that spotlight on her, and that's what we saw early on when she first met with him. She was the center of the universe on Pete Hegseth, yeah. And as somebody who, I don't want to minimize her concerns about the role of women in the military. Certainly, as a sexual assault survivor, her questions about those, we shouldn't minimize that, but let's not pretend that there aren't politics going on here. This is a senator who is up in 2026 and needs to win a primary, and there were a lot of Republicans on the outside who made clear that would be a problem for her.
Yeah, if she very loud.
Yeah, and so ultimately, when she sits down and says, what are the things that priorities I need to set here? Maybe she leaned on the political side.
After seeing yesterday, John, do you agree that the winds seem to now be pushing Hegseth towards confirmation? And for Democrats' part, they seem to level a lot of questions that, frankly, should be asked about his qualifications, his character, his experience. But did any of them really land?
I think the only ones that really landed were Senator Duckworth's questions about his knowledge and ability to actually do the job. The other ones, I think in Donald Trump's America, if you just deny everything and sort of push them off like he did yesterday, no matter what questions were asked, he sort of gave the same answer. He said, these are baseless, anonymous accusations. No, I didn't do that. And, asked and answered, and he moved on. Her questions were substantive, and he just didn't know the answers to them. If every member of that committee had asked those, he would have looked just grossly unqualified by the end of it. And I think it would have given pause to maybe some other senators like Lisa Murkowski, John Curtis, maybe Mitch McConnell to say, I don't know if I can vote for this guy who doesn't have a basic understanding about how the Department of Defense works. And I think that's what Democrats should be like. They should use Senator Duckworth's example for all the other nominees.
The other person who, when I was talking to Democrats on the Hill yesterday, Democrats seemed to think was able to at least showcase some of the pitfalls to this nomination was Senator Tim Kaine, who through multiple lines of questioning around the sexual assault allegation, around the fact that even though there were no charges pressed, that was an instance where Hegseth was cheating on his wife. So did that work? I mean, are Democrats on the Hill just kind of grasping at straws? They all know where this is going, but I think they were also trying to raise some early red flags.
Yeah, it was a skillful effort to point those things out. I think he did well, but there's this sort of dynamic on the Hill, and certainly in this moment, where when you are seen as sort of attacking the guy or by proxy attacking Donald Trump, it turns into a shirts versus skin game, us versus them, and they rally together. And I think that's more what you saw. And you saw a lot of Republican senators rushing to his defense. We are so tribal at this point that ends up becoming the prevailing dynamic in a way where the sort of character flaws question is probably less relevant. If you were supporting Donald Trump, you're probably not worried about character flaws in the first place. I don't mean to be cute about that, but that probably was not what was going to sink him. I think Jonathan's absolutely right. The substantive questions are where all of these people are going to be vulnerable. And if Democrats continue to go down the route of doing the sort of cheap shots, and not that they're not legitimate, but the cheap shots rather than the substance, I think they're going to have the same situation happen over again, where Republicans rally together and it creates a glide path for all of these people.
Do you notice both in this hearing and then also the way that the Democrats on the Hill have reacted to even the naming of some of these picks? Do you notice a change in the tone? To me, they seem a little bit less hair on fire. The world is ending. That was very much the tone, I think, of the pushback in the first Trump era. Do you notice a strategic communications shift?
I think they're a little surprised by the sort of completely outside the box and grossly unqualified picks. So they don't know how to handle it. Also, we're coming off a huge loss and there's no leadership, and there's a void of what do we do and what's our message going forward. And, you don't have a president at the top of the ticket. You don't have somebody who's leading and saying, here's our message. Chuck Schumer is leading the Senate Democrats, but each one of them have, a different agenda. Senator Peters is up for re-election. He's going to look differently. Senator Fetterman is sort of carving his own, box out there where he's going to be his, lone wolf. Some people are calling him the new Mansion. I don't know if he likes that new nickname, but, you're going to have people like Ruben Gallego who's going to do his own thing. So I don't think they're as unified as they were in the past when Donald Trump won in 2016. And it was just an all-out assault of no, no, no. But I also think they're just so surprised. Like, nobody expected Tulsi Gabbard, who most of them remember from the 2016 Russia investigation and have very strong concerns about who she is, and her ties to some foreign governments, that they were shocked that she was named. Robert Kennedy Jr., they're stunned at that. So they don't really know how to attack them yet, and that's what they're trying to figure out.
So that brings me to my quick final question, which is, it seems like Pete Hegseth is going to be fine, but to each of you, is there one name that you think might be a sleeper that doesn't get through? Cott and then Brendan.
I think Tulsi Gabbard. I think the Intel Committee is a serious committee. They have serious concerns about they've had concerns about her since 2016. I've heard members over the last 5 or 6 years when I worked up there express concerns about her.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the most likely. The other one, of course, I'll throw out is RFK. Yeah. He's so outside of the box, and if he presents himself as frankly very weird and has a lot of strange things come up and he doesn't seem to understand how government works, I think that could be a problem.
He's my sleeper pick, too, because they have issues with him both on the vaccine front and then also on the abortion front, and that's just from Republicans. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for getting early.